I am a retro anime fan. Most of the anime that I watch is considered retro now, especially the anime here recently. I've been watching a lot of 80s and 90s anime movies. I don't know what this is that he's talking about though. It was too violent for Toonami. What was? I really want to know. I used to watch Toonami. What did I miss? Have I seen this? I don't know what he's talking about. So let's jump into it. You know what he's talking about because I put it in the title. But I'm just here to let you know that I don't know. And maybe we'll have something to talk about, or I got a recommendation to something that I'm going to watch very, very soon, maybe on this channel.
Measument impossibility. You got it. Before streaming was a thing, finding anime to watch in the West was a little tricky. If you happen to know a guy who had a
like, I'd come across anime randomly or watch it on TV. If it wasn't on TV, it'd have to be random, that somebody just randomly got, or it was like at a flea market that I'm like, oh, this looks cool.
Basement full of strange stuff, then you were in luck. But that was a risky play. The safer option was to just watch Toonami, Dragon Ball Z, Outlaw Star, The Big O, and Gundam Wing. These are just a few.
I've never seen Gundam Wing, actually, and I've never seen Outlaw Star or Big O. I've never seen any of those three. Saw Dragon Ball Z. Love it. One of my favorites of all time.
The titles on Toonami. But as for the title we're talking about today, you didn't see this one on Toonami, because this one had to be aired on Adult Swim. You see, the mixed marriage
I might have watched it then.
Of violence and sex was a bit too much for Toonami. Just look at these bugs, right? I mean, come on. Do you see what I see, little shepherd?
I don't know what this is, but yeah, I know what that's supposed to be.
Boy, it's not very subtle. But
yeah, I've not seen this. I don't know what this is. Maybe I know the name.
It sure is bloody. This is Blue Gender.
Okay. Okay, this is Blue Gender. I always see the name Blue Gender. I never looked into what it actually was. Man, I'm glad I came across this video. Because, you know, it's time for me to know, I guess.
Mature mecha series from the guy who made 2 mecha anime I still haven't watched yet. Blue Gender is a cult classic dark and gory story. A true tale of monsters and men. One that hasn't been in the limelight for a while, although it still comes up from time to time, and chances are, if you like anime from the 90s and early 2000s, then you've at least...
Damn. Okay. Yep, I'm gonna have to check it out. It's like Alien, Starship Troopers, but serious.
Heard of it. But the question is it good?
That's what I want to know. Is it good? Is it worth my time? It looks good.
Is it good? Is it good? Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. Blue Gender is divided up into 2 parts. The first half...
What was that?
...follows Yuji, a crazy kid from the late 2000s who was diagnosed with a bad haircut and an even worse case of super age.
Dude, so many bad haircuts in anime in the 90s. And just, in general, bad haircuts.
He volunteered to be put into cryostasis until the eggheads came up with a cure, and he's woken up 2 decades later. Except there is no cure, the world has basically ended, and he's probably gonna die.
Fuck! That's a crazy realization to have.
Either from the strange alien bug-like monsters called Blue, which are constantly evolving whenever the plot needs them to, and have already wiped out most of humanity, or he'll be taken out by the rest of humanity. Or maybe from his own dumb decision-making.
What the hell?
A squad from a satellite out in space has been tasked with retrieving sleepers, the designation for anyone who was put into cryo before the fall. But the only surviving one they find is Yuji, which sucks. And he's woke too, which really sucks, because he was only supposed to wake up once they got back to base. But regardless, their mission is to still bring him back to their space station alive and unspoiled. However, things quickly go off script and most of them die, except for the cold-hearted mecha pilot Marlene Angel. She escorts Yuji through the wasteland that was once our world to the closest operational shuttle site somewhere in Russia.
This seems 1000% like something I'd be into.
And along the way, they fight more Blue, lose more guys, and
I want a movie like this. Why can't we have more apocalypse movies where just crazy shit's going on? I haven't seen one in a long time.
And grow closer to one another.
And not like a zombie apocalypse or like cultural decay, society collapses. No, I want something crazy to happen.
That's the first half. The second half mostly takes place on Second Earth, the name of the space station where a small portion of people who were lucky enough not to get stranded on Earth when the blue first broke out spend their days training and sciencing and banging to their heart's content. Also, the status of main character switches from Yuji to Marlene, but just for a little bit. They do go back to Earth eventually, and it's back to the bug killing, but there are some major personality changes with the two main leads. Marlene goes from a mission-focused ice queen to a love-struck woman intent on fixing Yuji, who went from an emotional spaz prone to preaching to something of a psychopath.
If you get between me and the blue, then you're going to get shot at! Nothing, not even you, will stand in the way of the success of this operation!
Dude, yeah, it totally seems like something I'd be into. Even if it's like a 7 out of 10, I don't care, man. Old anime's old anime, as long as it's somewhat good.
Also a whole bunch of new characters that get
I've seen some really unwatchable anime, man.
introduced because all the old ones died. And I'd name off some of the new ones, but by the time I list off all the important ones, they'd no longer be with us. But before we go any further, this video is sponsored by Sakurako. Sakurako is a monthly Japanese snack box filled with 20 traditional, authentic artisan Japanese snacks. A true taste of Japan from the comfort of your own home. What you get depends on the theme of the box.
If you like this, check it out. It seems really cool.
Currently, it's a trust Iraq, but these are just sesame I will inbox when you help the
survival.
So you better hold on tight.
Blue Gender. Coming up next. Adult Swim.
I would tell you that the first half of Blue Gender is the stronger half, although that's mostly because I like Fallout 3 and its aesthetic. Dilapidated cities crawling with unholy abominations.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I like Fallout 3. Is because of these vibes.
Fighting against a faction that uses big guns and metal suits. Love that stuff. But then you get to the second half and it's all about the people and political conspiracies and scientific revelations.
I'm into that. I'm into all of that stuff.
Most of it ranges from okay to okay. Spoiler, not that you should really care because it's kind of stupid, but you find out the reason that the last leaders of humanity wanted Yuji and the other sleepers is because of his super AIDS. This disease actually enhances his fighting capabilities under the right circumstances.
Super AIDS?
And so he and the others with this disease are going to pilot special mechs and save the world. But now here's the twist.
These look like some like Geno-cyber type creatures, man. Maybe not as over the top.
Is the world itself that...
Or what was that one? Biohunter?
It's trying to kill all humans, or at least enough humans to make things go back to the Bronze Age. You see, the Earth infected humanity with the super AIDS to start a chain reaction that would lead to everything that happens in the show. Blue Gender might just be one of the most explicit examples of a story that critiques man's disposition towards destruction and his inability to be a true steward of the Earth as prescribed by the Good Book, thanks to the Industrial Revolution and its consequences. And when I say explicit, I do mean explicit. Now, it is undeniable that Blue Gender has some...
Yeah, I don't know what happened to anime. Anime's not this brutal anymore. It used to be so brutal. It used to be so cool. They don't do that stuff anymore. Chainsaw Man, kinda, but it's still, like, cartoonishly over the top. You see it and you're like, whoa! But there's blood everywhere. It's super over the top. There's a guy... screaming, and it's like all the same. Might as well just be Dragon Ball Z, because that's really what they're trying to copy with that kind of energy, but gory. But no, back in the day, it was brutal. Things happened and it was terrible, and it made you uncomfortable.
Something to say about something. In this case, it wants to focus on humanity, both on a macro and a micro scale. What are we as a species doing to our planet? And what are we as a people doing to each other and even ourselves?
I feel
Those
that.
are the kinds of questions asked by this series, and this exploration of a humanity that has lost its humanity in its fight to save humanity is an interesting topic to tackle, but the way Blue Gender chooses to tackle it is a bit gratuitous.
Damn.
Now, it's not inherently a problem to focus on odd sexual scenes where characters barely react as if to say, what's happening is meaningless. Because in the context of a world as grim as the one in Blue Gender, this makes sense. People drop dead every day, and half the time there's no fanfare or glorious send-off. It just happens.
Yep, and there's no time to grieve. I feel that, man. That's what happened in Sleeping Dogs in that playthrough recently. Check out my gaming channel, link down there in the description. I just finished Sleeping Dogs.
Whoever survives simply moves on. Despite the illusion of intimate acts, there are no real relationships here. Just people chasing what little pleasure they can find before their time is up. But now, did we really need to see the orgy room? I feel like that was a bit much. Look, dude, there's a track in the OST that's literally just called sex. Also, and this is gonna sound very hypocritical coming from me, but there is too much rampant death in this show. Normally,
I don't know, man. Attack on Titan, it was pretty rampant.
I'm all for that kind of thing. But this time, I don't know, I think it's to the detriment of the story and the characters. You see, Blue Gender has some very interesting
What, does it got a whole bunch of death happening just to have death showing?
ideas that it wants to explore, but it also has a kill quota that it cannot compromise on. So most of the characters will have little to no characterization because they're really only there to be executed, and the story is required to proceed in a way that allows for said execution. So eventually things just start to come across as misanthropic, like the show is offing people just for the sake of it. And when you combine this with the ending of the show, it almost seems like Blue Gender is saying that the only way to keep us human beings from ruining our planet is
we're just gonna kill them.
I've talked a lot about the killing of characters in this show, but I really should talk about at least one of those characters.
Wait. Hold on.
A lot about the killing of characters in this show.
It's gonna kill them.
Yeah, that's Sam Hyde. That's Sam Hyde at like a TED Talk thing.
I've talked a lot about the killing of characters in this show, but I really should talk about at least one of those characters. Yuji. There's something you ought to know about this guy. He's very annoying.
Yep, I'm gonna subscribe.
This is why I'd actually recommend watching the English dub, solely because I don't think he sounds as annoying there.
Marlene? Tell me, what kind of place is Second Earth?
Are you worried?
I think that's true with a lot of 80s and 90s anime when it comes to the Japanese dubs. I think the English dubs are a little quieter, a little less over the top. Even when the acting is bad, I kind of think that it adds to the charm.
Worried about it?
No, I've just been wondering what will happen to me after we get there.
But regardless of which version you watch, there is not a single episode where Yuji isn't
If it's good enough, I'll watch both. Probably not. I'm gonna watch the English version.
complaining about something. Actually, that's a lie. There are a few episodes where he doesn't, because he's not there. But when he is there, he is constantly disobeying everyone and crying about how it's not fair that he's woken up into a world that sucks and that his saviors aren't freaking saving everyone. The show also uses him to comment on manhood. You want to know why Blue Gender is called Blue Gender? Because it's about the blue gender. It also comments on the role of women to some degree, but it's much more critical of a young man's desire to go full warrior step lord and crush.
I'm very curious. I'm gonna have to check it out now. I really gotta know what's going on with this.
All his enemies, drive them before himself, hear the lamentation of their women, that sort of thing. But it's all linked to the super aids, which are actually called the B cells in the show, and sort of operate as a stand-in for testosterone. It makes you really strong but kind of aggressive. And considering all of the other things that are already attached to the B cell stuff, this is an odd way to tackle the topic. I think it would have been better to just have Yuji's perspective and ideals challenged and changed over the course of the series, through interactions with people of varying philosophies. Maybe it's a big cliche, but it might have worked in this case to have Marlene and Yuji basically switch their positions by the end, which is already kind of what happens in the show, but in practice, it's more like Marlene can't go 3 sentences without mentioning Yuji, and Yuji just gets emo for a while, and while he does change into a guy who's more mature and capable than the loser we were introduced to, he's still plenty emotional and annoying in the end. But is he so bad that he ruins the show like he ruins his underwear in episode 1? I don't think so. And it would seem the people of yesteryear didn't think so either. The Blue Gender didn't break any records, but it did do well enough for AIC to make a compilation film just a few years after it ended. Although it's a film that wasn't enjoyed as much by
This is a sci-fi. You know, I'm gonna have to watch it on principle. I gotta consume every sci-fi. Anything. Books, shows, movies, especially movies, anime.
fans of the show, and it's not hard to see why. This movie, Blue Gender: The Warrior, is essentially a retelling of the series with a few reanimated scenes, a handful of small narrative changes, and a completely original ending. As for the new animation, it's pretty solid. I thought the TV series overall looked pretty good, especially for a late 90s show. Sure, your average episode looked pretty average, but when the show needed to look its best, it did look nice. But
I feel like that's what I'm going to be watching it for, is for the visuals. All the rest of it is just kind of probably secondary.
it did have a fair amount of fights that didn't look all that great, and this movie fixes that while still keeping to the style of the show so that nothing feels out of place. As for some of the changes from the TV show, a lot of it is small stuff like Yuji having a different haircut at the start, or a few minor characters being absent. But there are a handful of arcs that are either fast-tracked or skipped over for the sake of runtime. This movie is only 1 hour and 40 minutes. That's roughly 50 minutes to cover each half of the show, except that the movie doesn't actually cover much of the TV show's second half. The last third was completely removed, and the stuff that was included was streamlined even more so than in the first half. Most of the major characters were cut altogether, and the movie ends with a failed New York City operation where, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be there. But yeah, basically a bunch of people die, Yuji has an awakening, and the Blue decide to leave him and Marlene alone, and that's pretty much how it ends. It's not a very good ending. And it's not a very good movie either. It does have its moments, and I actually do like many of the changes from the TV.
Well, if I watch the show, I'm definitely going to have to watch the movie, especially if there's differences.
TV series, like how there's more tension between Yuji and Marlene, and at one point she even calls out his backseat moralizing. And I do think that certain sections of the story, like when they assault the base to get to the shuttle, flow better without the added internal conflict between the soldiers because some crazy dude goes and does something crazy. But if you haven't seen the TV show, then every scene will feel disjointed, or like things are just happening now. And if you have seen the TV show, then I don't really see a reason to watch this one. It's not like the Escaflowne film, which is a radically different take on the Escaflowne.
I completely forgot about Escaflowne. I'm gonna have to hold on. I had to write it down on my anime list because that is one that I heard about when I was a kid and completely forgot about, that people have told me before I need to watch, and I never wrote it down. So finally, I wrote it down. Thank
TV
you.
show, both visually and narratively. It's basically just a sped up and slimmed down version of a show that already had some pacing problems, with just a few changes that don't really change much in the grand scheme of things. But now there is one other version of Blue Gender out there, the manga. It came out right before the TV show ended, and it's an even more truncated version of the story than the movie. It only covers the first half of the series, and it tends to combine characters and set pieces to save time. I don't really think it's worth checking out, but it's not that hard to track down if you're curious. And now we return to the question
Yeah, I'm not that curious to read the manga, honestly. Sorry. Whoops.
I asked at the start of the video. Is Blue Gender good? In terms of atmosphere and setting, I think it's great. The soundtrack in particular does a phenomenal job at conveying despair and mystery. That one track with the World at War type haunting vocals gets me going every time. Love that song. But as for the story and the characters and the way the show presents its ideas and themes, not the biggest fan, to be honest with you. I feel like I've done a decent job explaining why, but to summarize it with just a single sentence, Blue Gender is an anime with an interesting setup that trips over its characters' corpses and falls on its face at the finish line. But if you're just in the mood for something moody and graphic, then I'd say it's still worth watching. Maybe you disagree with me? I know that Blue
I think it's worth watching. I'll check it out. Thanks for letting me know, Cultured Crusader. You really clickbaited me on that, and I'm glad you did. Because also, I was reminded that Escaflowne was a thing, and I'm definitely going to check that one out. Probably on this channel. I'm probably going to check out Blue Gender and Escaflowne on this channel eventually. Hopefully, I'll get to it this year at some point. Very, very soon. I've got a few things lined up that I'm going to get to first. I gotta finish Evangelion. I got to get to the end of Evangelion and everything that comes after that. And then I'll be able to move on to another anime, and who knows what that'll be. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. I'll see you in the next one.